You're watching the FileMaker News Network. Bring you the latest in critical FileMaker news, as well as trivial gossip. Miles Debski with Internet Weather. And our field reporter, Jacob Taylor. Anchored by our award-winning team of Margaret, Haley, Jeremy, and David. You're watching FileMaker TV. We're blowing stuff up today. Everyone, welcome to an awesome day. Hey, there's Miles Debski with our hot action weather. How's it going, Miles Debski?
We are here.
All right. So how's the weather in Portland? Weather in Portland's good?
Yeah, it's good today. It's been, it's like those board game spinners where you spin it and you're going to land on any spot.
Yeah, it's been kind
Every
of wild
day
weather.
You get a spin.
Yep. Miles is here. Jacob's here. So, Miles, we'll leave you alone. You don't have to be here too much unless you want to have anything to chime in and talk about. Today is kind of an exciting day. We're going to be talking about FileMaker 19.5 in kind of a slightly more serious way, loosely about 19.6. And then we're going to actually, as dumb as this is, we're going to be showing you FileMaker 20. I talked to Claris about this, and they said, "Oh, Richard, just explain to everyone what we're doing. Don't bother trying to have us change what we're doing. We'll just explain to them what we're doing." It's like, okay, roger that. So welcome to FMTrade.tv. I'm going to hide him briefly. Let's talk about the upcoming broadcast schedule. If you want to know what's going on, every day we're broadcasting at 1 o'clock, and we have today a very exciting day. Go to FMTrade.tv, slide down to the live tab on the left side. You can see live data out of our FileMaker database. So we actually use FileMaker, Claris Pro to run our business, right? We eat our own dog food, unlike some companies. So anyway, so today we're talking about 19.5, 19.6, and FileMaker 20. It's truly one of the bizarrest live streams I've ever done. Tomorrow, the idea today is if you have questions, I will answer them. If I have questions that I say save for Andy, so I'm going to just have a rubber stamp save for Andy, you're going to come in tomorrow and ask him those questions. He'll mostly want to talk about how you can spend more money on Claris. I think they want to talk about that. But at the end of the day, it's open season on him. It's like first day of duck hunting season. You're going to shoot the ducks and whack, whack. So if you see Andy go flying by, shoot questions at him. It'll be lots of fun. The CRM training, the beginning training, we pushed back 2 days because Claris wanted to come tomorrow. And so we kind of adjust our schedule to facilitate their schedule. So that's pretty awesome. So Wednesday, tomorrow's Andy with Claris. So Claris representative will be here to answer your questions. And then Wednesday for the next month is a beginning CRM, and every day is a new beginning topic and basically learning the basics about FileMaker Pro and customizing the new CRM, which is out and it's available. So if you have a question for tomorrow, Ruben, I'm going to not look at it. Just put big tomorrow and then colon and then save it. If you want me to take a swing at it today, I can. Some of this I know, right? I do have a little bit of other action news. So for those of you who go over here and you want to support the channel, I'm not asking for free money. Come over here and purchase one of our training bundles. If you purchase the complete training bundle over here, you get our FileMaker Certification training. You get this stuff over here, right? And if you buy our bundle and you go and pass your certification training, you get your FileMaker certified patch. It's kind of backwards. Let me flip my camera to normal. Whoop, right? There we go. So it's the FileMaker certified 2022 patch. Pretty cool, eh? Right? So you get that. You can stick it on your shirt. You can stick it on your backpack. Most people put on a backpack or something. Kind of neat. Or hang it on the wall as a memento of the pain and agony you went through to get certified. I'm sending these out now to the people who've passed the test. And the first 2 people passed weren't even in the United States. So I got to figure out what international shipping is going to be to send them their patch, right? So if it gets too extravagant, we'll have to figure out, split the difference or do something. So we got patches here in a bag. That's awesome for those of you. That is great. So That covers the basic news. Miles is still there. That's awesome. Whenever I say something, I do it. Sometimes the schedule takes a little bit longer, but I always do what I say and I say what I do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule. This is my keynote presentation, and Jacob Taylor will be around here a little bit today to help us with that, in fact, quite a bit. Reminder, this
Awesome.
is, yep, Jacob's there. You are there, right, Jacob? You're
I am.
all right. So Wednesday is the CRM training that picks up on that day. Now, let's talk about today a little bit. We're going to start off with the low-hanging fruit. And the low-hanging fruit largely is 19.5. 19.5 should have been out in April. I'm not sure entirely kind of what happened, and there's been so many big explosive fires going on at Claris that I haven't had time to like ask like little tactical questions like how come 19.5 is late and where or is it even late or it comes out when it comes out. But it's got a lot of stuff in it. In fact, so this was a slide that was put together. This is not under non-disclosure. Claris can say it's under non-disclosure, but Brad Freitag, your chief executive officer at Claris, who's essentially kind of an Apple level vice president, is kind of his pecking order. Um, Basically, we came out and disclosed all this, so it's not a secret. So 19.5, we're going to talk about with Jacob Taylor a little bit. It's pretty impressive. Jacob, do we want to kind of like loosely, we don't want to show it because we're not cleared to show it, but
No.
basically it's coming soon in weeks, I guess.
Soon, yeah, weeks, not months,
Yeah.
is the time, the kind of time projection. We don't have like a date, but
Yeah, no, it's not. I don't think Claris has a date. All right, so let's talk about loosely based upon this. Let's amplify these bullet points here, these 5 bullet points. Let's talk about
yep.
what is coming in 19.5. 19.5 was planned and already all planned out long before any of this other 20 Claris Studio stuff was really, So let's just talk about 19.5. We'll leave that. We'll get to 20 in a little bit, right? So,
hmm
okay, go ahead. So what do we prove performance and scalability? Do you have anything to validate that, or does that just a random bullet point that they threw in there?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that go into that actually. So one of the useful things that they're doing scalability wise. So if you all, and I don't know, I know we have a pretty mixed skill level on stream today, but some people have dealt with like working with large data sets on the server. I don't mean you have a massive database, but you have say a scheduled script that reprocesses a bunch of your data. For
Mm.
example, a big dashboarding setup where maybe you blow out a table and regenerate it each night to have a live and up to date kind of picture where the business is at or picture where some process is at. They are going to be increasing with 19.5 the script engine cache size on the server. That helps a couple different things. One of them is, just massive record processing and stuff. There was a note I found somewhere in there. It was actually also targeted for people who are doing a lot of file movement inside scheduled scripts on the server. So, for example, pulling data down, I don't know, from FTP or HTTP downloads and like pulling or pushing that stuff into or out of FileMaker, it's going to help a lot with that. That was a kind of a specific thing that they wanted to tell us about. Let's see, scalability related. I say one of the other, yeah. Oh, I know the big one here. The big splashy one. So this is coming, and there are a couple of constraints on when it happens that you all might expect. Actually, you could probably guess some of them. I think the big performance-related feature, actually, other than, and we'll get to the parallel backups in a second, but the other big performance-related feature, summary fields. So sorry, one step back. Summary fields are on the server. That's the short version. The longer explanation is, so if you remember, I think it was 19.3 or 19.4, they added where if Pro and server were the same version, under certain circumstances, a portal of related data that had a sort on it, the server would do that work under a lot of
Actually,
common
let me
circumstances.
clarify that. Even it was the sorts. Even forget the portal. The portal sorting has been addressed for a while. This is just
Yeah.
sorts on like a list view, right? A list
Yep.
view, and so if the server was under 25%. in performance utilization, like the little processor is less than 25%, the server would do the sort for the client, so it doesn't
Yep.
ship the data down as much faster, right? So
Gives you like the record list in
yes,
sorted order, and then
yes,
your pro goes, oh, I'm going to display the first 25 of those. Whoop. And so
yes.
that's all you actually fetch.
Yeah, yeah. So they kind of did the same thing here. That's right. So it's basically the idea is that if the server's not too busy, which is kind of a loosey-goosey thing, I'm going to have a chat with Clay and see if I can get more data about that, the latest data on it. But if the server's not too busy, then and you display a summary field, like you have a list view with a bunch of invoices at the bottom, and it kind of starts grinding a progress bar as it calculates. The server will do it for you if the server isn't too busy. So it's like it will make your life better if it's not already stressed about something else, right?
Yeah,
So.
and I can send you the list of kind of prerequisites or qualifications on when that happens actually.
Okay.
Not for the sorting, but for the summary field. That I mean, the different whatever, but it's mostly documented basically.
Okay.
So we know what the constraints on that are.
Well, the constraints were kind of a moving target at one point. So if they locked them in, I'll ask Clay see if they're really locked. That would be good.
Yeah. And that's a separate. I don't know about that, but we have a list.
Okay, cool.
A list of constraints exists. One of the other big ones is, and this will be really exciting. It's a combo between Pro and Server. So if you all remember, we have our perform script on server script step. That now works in the server context. So when you PSOS, it used to be with it. So we're from Pro. We've launched out. We're on server. We're running inside the server. We usually call that SASE or PSOS. We are within that script right now, right? So there will be that used to be that you could fire subscripts. So you do within that. We're already on the server, and we are doing perform script, right? Not perform script on server, but perform script as those subscripts. So you have little parts of your process that run. Perform script on server within a perform script on server will now function. There's kind of an on toggle that has to happen for that to actually take place. But it's possible now, and what that means is you can kind of push a script up to the server, and that be your like meta script that runs all the other little ones. So if there's certain parts of the process that need to happen in defined order and stuff like that, and the ones that exist will continue to work as is. There's no change there.
Yeah.
We'll be able to fire and forget from the server. So it behaves the way that you'd probably guess, which is every time you're inside of perform script on server and you do another perform script on server, it is a fresh launch. So
it's a parallel session. The server has a virtual session.
Context.
Yeah.
Wholly new.
Yeah. The FileMaker server, essentially the easiest way to think about it as a developer is that there's an invisible copy of FileMaker Pro running on the server. And it kind of almost is. And you tell it to run a script on the server. Imagine a copy of FileMaker Pro on the server running headless with no interface, and it's running. Well, normally you tell the client tells the server to run a script, and it runs it within that FileMaker, a single spin up of FileMaker Pro with its own little memory space, its own process. Well, if you do it again and again and again, then you're spinning up extra copies of FileMaker Pro that are running in parallel. Now, if you have I don't want to say crappy server, but a server that doesn't have a lot of processors, then you do 10 of those, then you're going to clog your own plumbing with that, right? It'll be too much in parallel, but it allows you to do parallel script processing, which is interesting. So that's pretty neat. So moving forward, I don't want to spend too terribly much time here. I was talking about parallel backups briefly, and then I'll cover kind of loosely the stuff over here.
So parallel backups are one of the other kind of splashy features with 19.5. You can guess from the name what it is. FileMaker server for many years / decades has backed up sequentially. It goes down. If you have one database, then it doesn't matter and nobody cares because this isn't even a relevant conversation. But as soon as you have more than one file open on the server, you start thinking about, all right, how do backups happen? And so historically, it's essentially gone down the list. All right, database 1, database 2, database 3, through its little list of those. With 19.5, that changes. So with with this, they call the feature parallel backups. What happens is the server, and it gets intelligence from a couple different places, tries to group files together based on which ones relate to each other. The idea being, if you have, cross-file relationships, cross-file kind of script interactions and stuff like that, where the data ideally would be consistent between the different databases, like if you're going to run a backup, they all pause simultaneously type, like that kind of a consideration. It will do that, and so it creates these groups of files, and then it pauses, backs up, and unpauses those groups at the same time, rather than an individual database.
Yeah, so if you had two or three multi-file solutions, right? So marketing has a 5-file solution, sales has a 5-file solution, engineering team has a 12-file solution. Instead of it randomly grabbing files from each one and disrupting all the groups kind of in parallel, what it does, it grabs one group, kind of pauses that group, backs that group up, then it moves on, restores functionality to that group, moves on to the next group. So it does them kind of in groups, not necessarily in alphabetical order, which is kind of the idea. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So briefly, because I want to leave most of the time to talk about 20. So 19.6 is planned. I don't get the idea of when this will be, but it's in the future. And Claris seems to release software on a quarterly basis. So I would assume if we get a release the next couple weeks, and whatever plus 3 months from that would be is when we get 19.6. Number 2 and 3 are interesting. I don't want to really get into those because we've talked about single sign-on, things like that. I want to see those amplified. The 4th one is interesting because apparently they figured out how to take unicorn blood and process it and put it in a FileMaker. I don't know how they're doing that last one, so we'll have to wait and see. The first one has been something that's within the developers who are the senior folks in the community. It's been something that's been rumored. Claris has been batting around for more than a year. And the idea is that what transactions are, real quick, I'll just spend a moment on this. There's like some people out in the FileMaker community who are like transaction whores. It's kind of a slang term, but that's all they want is transactions. And the idea with a transaction, and it makes sense from a financial standpoint. If you're going to write a log entry, an accounting entry into the system, and you put in check number so-and-so, or this purchase order was paid to this person on this time, and I'm going through the fields right, and then you hit the dollar amount, but say FileMaker crashes as you're tabbing through, and say you exit out, so it saves part of the data, but that entire transaction should be kind of all or nothing. You want all the information, including all the financials and all the processing, to happen on it. You don't want it half-baked, because if you have to go back to the last backup, the backup might have happened in between, when someone did this, right? Say someone does half the record, they go to lunch, they come back, they finish filling out this purchase order or something, and they hit complete and save, and there's this process. Well, they've half entered it, right? And it might be in the database as half baked. The problem is that you don't have a complete transaction. So there's this really Mickey Mouse method. There's been DevCon sessions on this, probably books, white paper, certainly webinars put together on how to do transactions in FileMaker. And I'm thinking of Todd Geis and John Sindelar and some people like that. And they're brilliant people to figure this out. And it's how you have the data loaded into children of your parent. You're in the parent record, and then you lock the parent, and then you lock the children, and then by you locking the one, it locks all of them together. It's kind of this hack to create transactions. Well, they're working on an idea. I think it revolves around a window. I haven't played with it, but I can just tell you it's a big deal, and we're really excited about it. And that, so you do all this work in a window, and you save this data and get it all done, but it's not saved back to the server or committed to the drive until you say whatever, commit it, save it, like really commit it and save it. So there's probably a new script step, I would imagine, on that, but that's pretty exciting. So that is coming out. So now what's interesting about 19.5 and 19.6 is that people are like, well, FileMaker, they're really still committed to FileMaker Pro. They're clearly, what this is an example of, there's nothing really super secret about what I'm talking about here. This is all a public slide. But they're continuing to commit heavy resources into enhancing and engineering FileMaker Pro, and I want to kind of talk about that. So today is the Claris Studio conversation. As a reminder for those of you who are kind of new, and maybe this webinar, you're a brand new FileMaker person, Claris person, or you're an Apple employee and you don't even know these people work for you. There you go. Claris is a department division subsidiary of Apple, right? The people that make iPhones and iPads and Macs, right? So there you go. So real quick, I want to just briefly mention this. Claris has identified some kind of guidelines, mission critical guidelines. I consider this worth repeating. Once again, we're not really talking about the free version of Pro because it's sometime in the future, and I don't have any details on it besides, Claris said, yes, we want to do this. So the idea, though, is that overall, the part that I want to point out is that they don't want to break what we already have. This is really a big one, right? And this is like making our lives easier. This is, single sign-on, so you can get all the data you want, and then lowering the friction for new adopters, people to get into the community. So this is really a big deal here. So at some point in the future, that you're going to see free single copies of FileMaker Pro. There's no peer-to-peer sharing in it. That's been totally removed. Peer-to-peer is gone. If you still use that, then, I was talking to some gentleman yesterday actually, and he was like, FileMaker 17, I'm not going to upgrade until they fix charting or something, right? And I'm like, they're not going to fix charting anytime soon. And so, it's kind of almost a belligerent conversation, but if you want to stay up to date with FileMaker, please stay up to date because there's a lot of great things coming and you won't be able to take advantage of those if you don't stay up to date. FileMaker 17 is like 6 years old kind of stuff. It's kind of it's like a 40-year-old dog. It's an old dog. So yeah, so this is an important concept here of lowering the friction, and not breaking the stuff we already have. So let's talk about this is kind of an important slide here. Most of you have not seen this slide. This is, I'll just say I created this for you for the moment. So the Claris platform, this is kind of a terminology definition page. So the Claris platform is going to be what they call Claris Pro, which Claris is trying to get rid of the word FileMaker. Good luck with that. They got Claris Studio, which is the stuff we're going to be talking today, Claris Connect. So Pro, let's just leave off the words in front of it. We're just going to call it Pro. Pro is the professional authoring solution. This is where the professionals go, that's you and me and the folks in the live stream, go to build great solutions. Eventually, the Claris Studio is going to have quite a number of capabilities. Today, we're talking about its first capability. It's pretty limited so far, and you're going to see that today. And basically, it's about web authoring and mostly right now public forums. Now, there is the Claris Studio ID. For those of you familiar with Claris ID, Claris Studio ID and Claris ID are going to be combined together at some point, but they're not quite there yet. And so you're going to see some things today that you could tell it's like it's in progress. It's not done. It's not fully baked. And so there's a little bit of weirdness, right? And then tomorrow, once again, it's open Q&A with Andy Lacates, but there'll also be a conversation about Problem Solver Circle. I covered this a week ago, Friday, I guess, right? I covered Problem Solver Circle, and the idea was that this is about expanding for customers who are using FileMaker in an organization, basically getting them a very inexpensive site license, and that way the rest of the organization can essentially try FileMaker for free in other departments. It allows Claris to actually potentially sell more units down the road. So it's like a 2-year free, I don't want to say free, a 2-year inexpensive site license. And then after that time, if you went from 20 users to 40 users, then you're going to pay for the 40. But it's kind of a neat deal, and there'll be probably a bit more of a conversation about that. So I am going to slide forward. If Timothy or any of you folks have questions, let me know. So today's conversation, I'm kind of graying these out a little bit. It's mostly about Claris Studio because, and this kind of gets into this kind of interesting area. So what Claris is going to do, and they're already doing this, is not secret. You've got FileMaker Pro 19.4, and it'll effectively be 19.5 pretty quick. At the same time, they're shipping that. And this is the part I've been really, because I dreaded the conversation we're about to have. I've been dreading this conversation for a month. I've been dreading this because half of you are not going to understand it. I barely understand it. So the idea is that Claris is going to ship what they call FileMaker Pro 19, and there's nothing really changed about it besides those features you saw. Then they're going to ship Claris Pro 20. Claris Pro 20 has the same feature set of FileMaker 19.5. Okay, so Claris Pro 20, I should have a slide on this. I don't. I'm working on that. Is the same as FileMaker Pro 19.5. The difference is Claris Pro 20 will connect to Claris Studio. That's its one thing. So you have to buy Claris Studio, then you get this like super beefed up version of FileMaker. They're not calling it FileMaker, they're calling it Pro. You get a beefed up version of Pro. Well, let's just take, for the time being, take it on faith that Richard is a nice person. I'm not going to lie to you, okay? If we have any questions, we'll ask Andy tomorrow, or we can ask Clarice today. I'm not sure she has any answers for you, but we might ask Clarice International today. But you have 2 copies of Pro. So we'll have the legacy, I don't want to say legacy copy of Pro, but I think because eventually they're going to be together. But it's a Pro that doesn't connect to Claris Studio. Then you have a Pro that connects to Claris Studio. And so that's what we really want to talk about today. So on next slide here, I'm going to demonstrate all this for you. This is the brand new stuff. This is, none of you have probably seen this except maybe in, they talked about it, but I'm actually going to go through the construction process, and actually we're going to go deeper than anyone else has gone. So the idea is that right now, Claris Studio, in the future, Claris Studio, theoretically, kind of a lightweight version of FileMaker. It's never going to be as powerful as FileMaker, not for 5 or 10 years, so way far off time in the future. It's kind of like almost a little bit, I guess, kind of bento-y, kind of the idea of kind of this lightweight database that's cuddling queue. It's on the cloud, it can be shared. So you can go into Claris Studio and build a very lightweight database, but as soon as, it's kind of like bento, as soon as you need serious work done, you got to get out Pro, and then Pro can talk to it, which is great. So right now, their database is really limited. So what they did is they created a public, the Claris wanted to solve an immediate problem with Claris Studio so people would play with it. And the immediate problem is public-facing forms. We talked about this the other day a little bit. We're going to demonstrate it for you. So what we created is what we call the California Department of Justice Rocket Bunny registration. So if you have small furry animals with explosive ordnance, which is an interesting thing, you should register those as deadly weapons with the state of California so they know that you have a deadly fluffy bunny, okay? Right now, Claris Studio is in the cloud only. There's no local installer for it. Claris said they could make a local installer for it, but right now it's all in the cloud. So this is all in the cloud, okay? You're going to see this. I'm going to do it for you today, okay? What it does is that as you build this form out, it builds the back-end database, and it shows it to you like in an Excel spreadsheet, because really that's a great way of visualizing. It's not Excel, but it's spreadsheet, Google Sheets, whatever. It's a spreadsheet. And this is your data. So this is a screenshot of my data. So you're building this out, and you test it. It automatically publishes it to the web. I'm going to give everyone the link here. In fact, Margaret, I'll help. Margaret, if you can go to the engineering thread and grab the link for me. The Fluffy Bunny trial link, and just give it to everyone. They can play with it. And they can submit data. Please submit G-rated data and nothing with super 4-letter words, except, fun and love and things like that. Yes. So that Jack the Ripper, that's in here. We talk about that. So Margaret, if you can copy and paste that. So what we're doing is publishing the form so you can see this. The idea, though, is that as it goes into here, this is a database. This is a Mongo database. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm just telling you, for those of you who technically care about this, is a back-end database. It does it automatically. This is all very automatic, very seamless, very easy. Your first day FileMaker person could probably build this. And then, so here it is. And all this is contained inside Claris Studio, okay? And the idea is that Claris Studio can talk back and forth to FileMaker. Right now, the conversation is one way only, which means that as you collect data here, you can retrieve it across here, right? It should not ask for a login, okay? If it's asking for a login, I've been wondering about that. It should be a public form. It does, see? And it's supposed to be public, right? And it was public. I wonder if Claris broke their stuff
there's
again.
2 different links. There's a private version, I think, and a public version.
Oh, is there? All right. Well,
you did 2 links.
Why don't we go find that real quick, everyone? Stand by. So
so
I am actually now in Claris Studio. I've logged into Claris Studio. The link is platform.claris.com. What's that?
The second link works.
So I'm going to log in here. You can't see my stuff. And so what Claris has done, okay, I understand second link, just let me get there, Mr. Taylor. Okay, Margaret, if you want to find, well, Margaret doesn't have access to this. So you guys, it's a lot to absorb. Just slow down, okay, for me. 2 seconds, okay? This is the Claris Studio. This is the cloud interface. FileMaker Pro can talk to this. We're going to demonstrate that. So everyone just be cool. What Claris has done, though, is that they can't give everyone, they cannot give all of you access to this because they're still kind of creating the walls and the barriers between people's existence. So all the top consultants in the community, if you've been around for 20 years or whatever, are in here. So I can see Celine's database, they can see mine, and Claire sent out a note saying we're all going to trust you people to play nice in the sandbox and don't throw sand at each other like a bunch of 5-year-olds, right? So that's cool. So I'm in here somewhere, all the kind of Chris Ippolite and all in here, and Hansa and Tim Brown and a bunch of people that you've never heard of and a bunch of people that you go, oh, I don't recognize that person. So that's the team. These are the forms, and here's a Rocket Bunny form. Okay, over here's the download. This is where you download FileMaker Pro 20, which is essentially the same, or correction, Claris Pro 20, which is the same as FileMaker Pro 19.5, except that this version here talks to Claris Studio. It's got a login. I will show that to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my forms. So these are all the forms that the consultant's been playing with. So we don't have our own separate sandbox. We're all sharing the same sandbox. I know it's a lot. And I said create a new form. You can go through, we can go through that in a little bit if you want. But the short version is that I created one over here. I click on it. It comes up with this screen here. You'll recognize it. When you create a new one, it comes up with a page like this and a page like this. It's designed as a basic web confirmation. And so what I can do is I can click on this to, so this is the workflow. So this page to another page to another page. And then this right here is like, so this should say layout mode, right? This is layout mode. We're now in layout mode. Okay, here we are. And we can come over here and I can move things around, and it's all this auto flow stuff. And up here at the top, I can say, where'd that go? Is it share? Where's the sharey thing at? Oh, there it is. Top right corner, I can say share it. So is it this link right here? Copy link? Is this, or did you?
The most recent link that I posted in Discord. So.
Okay, so let me go to, I'm just going to pop it in Discord for you folks so you have it real quick. This should allow you to go through it. When you press this and you open it, it should give you an actual page where you can submit the data. Does this one not work over here at all? I just posted it. Let's see.
I clicked it and it worked without requiring a link.
So oh, there you go.
Works.
Okay, Margaret, can you give that link to the other people and make sure they're... Yeah, so Warner says, yep, I'm a little confused, WJ Warner. Let's just, everyone do me a favor and go in here and create a database real quick. So put your name in this. I can say WJ Warner. I got you covered, Warner. All cool. I acknowledge that my fluffy bunny is stored safely in a lockbox away from children. Does your bunny equipped with high incendiary explosive rounds, right? Because little cute rabbits. Okay, it's snuggly and sweet, but it might be grossly belligerent, right? Then you could put your email in here. I'll just put my personal email in there, and then you can put some comments in here, right? And you hit submit, right? And then you get this. And I was just wanted to put an animated GIF in there to see if it would work, and of course it did. So that's kind of cool. So when we did this right here, I'm going to close this. I'll say done. So this is our page. We're in page mode. I can actually see the database. So as I was laying this out, it created the database in the back end for me and linked it automatically. So there's WJ Warner. So that was me, and a bunch of you added records in here. This is great. So you're doing that. So as you do this, and I probably could refresh here, more records will probably pop up in here, right? I'm not sure if there's a reload page on here. So this is all early days. So in this screen here, I can edit the data and delete data. So here's a blank record here. I can right click on it and say delete row. Okay. So if you're in this interface right here, it's you can change the columns. You can do whatever you want to do here. Pretty limited. But when we talk to it in FileMaker, FileMaker sees it right now as read-only. And I mean really, 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 really read-only, okay? Hey, I am the California Department of Justice, and we are trying to have, if people are using their animals for warfare, they need to register them. In California, you have to register just about everything, right? So If you have a dirty thought, you have to register that too. So yeah, so this is California. So anyway, so you put this information here. It's in here. So we have that hanging out over there. I'm going to minimize Discord. And so let me just click on this real quick. And okay, so yeah, so let me back up a little bit here. So basically what this is, Claris calls this ESS Plus. It behaves like ESS. We've never really done serious training on our live stream about ESS, largely because I hate ESS, because you always seem to get in trouble with it because people try to use it not what it's for. And what ESS is essentially an external SQL source that comes into FileMaker and it acts like FileMaker. And so it uses that technology. Clay Mackel was talking about the other day. He says they call it ESS because someone in marketing actually said that someone got in marketing and thought that would be a cute name to name it because it's not an accurate name. But basically, Claris has created a data pipe. Theoretically, according to their graphic up here, it's two ways. Right now, it's one way. I imagine there's quite a bit of stuff that'll be coming. But so we have to, so for those of you wondering about certification, Larry, and a bunch of you who want to be certified, this material that you're about to see on the screen here is certification material for ESS. So you can already connect the FileMaker to Oracle, to SQL databases, to whatever sort of SQL systems, MySQL, Microsoft SQL. And once it's set up, it behaves this way. So let's talk about this a little bit. So this is what you're going to see. We're going to go into FileMaker, and it's going to allow us to select to put on screen a table that is from Claris Studio. We drag and drop it, we put it on there. That's called a shadow table. The data isn't really in our FMP12 file. It's not really in our FMP12 file, but it's referenced there. It's a shadow of the actual data that's living in SQL somewhere in Mongo database, right? Makes sense? Yeah, ESS Jack Ripper says it always worked for me, but I only use it with Oracle data. The problem is with it is that what my customers tend to do is they go, because what do you put in SQL if you work in government and companies and stuff? Pretty big data sets, like, a million billion records, right? A zillion records. And they say, well, I want to use FileMaker for reporting of that data, which is not really, like for those of you who heard of Crystal Reports, once upon a time that was a thing. And you would use that to create this really great reporting for your SQL systems. And they would see this, they go, oh, I'll use FileMaker for that. But FileMaker doesn't parse millions of billions of records at high speed very well. It's not really designed for that. It allows you to go in there and see the data, grab the data out, maybe edit the data if you have access privileges for that. But I always would run into performance hits with it. And so I was like, okay, I just want to stay away from that as a general rule, right? Because then what happens is the customer asks you to do something you can't do, and I hate saying no to customers. I hate saying no. And so what I do is I try to not put myself in a spot where I know I'm going to ask and I have to say no. I hate that. So this is a shadow table. And so inside the field, so we bring up Rocket Bunny 1 is the name of the table. You're going to see it in just a minute. These are shadow fields. These are fields that we actually created on the web form, that were created in Mongo, that we have access to. We can define additional fields in FileMaker. They're called supplementary fields. All this stuff is on the FileMaker certification test, okay? They'll say ESS or something like that. They won't call it Cloud Studio Cloud or Cloud Studio, whatever it's called, Claris Studio. It's the same technology, right? And it works the same way. And so what it allows you to do is you can add any unstored field that doesn't have data stored, so it's like generated on demand. And also you can add summary fields, which are once again generated on demand. So these are two fields right here that really don't save into the file anywhere. The data is not saved. So by you defining fields here, we are not changing the structure on the SQL side. That's the operative thing. If we're in FileMaker, we're working in an FMP12 file. That FMP12 file is talking to Claris Studio, right? And if we add a field in there, or we even go in here and delete a field, we're not changing the structure on the Claris Studio side, on the Mongo database side, right? I'm going to literally demonstrate all this for you. I'm just going through the terminology. What happens though, if you delete a field up here, it hides it from you. It hides it from you. Did you delete it off the server? On the Claris Studio side, no. Is it still there? Yes. Does it still have data in it? Yes. You didn't delete it. You just hid it from yourself. Really, down here, if you click on one of these, it should not say delete. It should say hide, right? And then the sync right here goes out and refreshes all the fields that are on the Mongo database side and puts them back. So this is hide it, and this is unhide it. Show me everything that's there on that table. Make sense? David said now he's confused. Yeah. So,
We do have a question before you.
oh, there's lots of
wander on to
questions,
the-
I'm sure, but I don't know if I can. I need to
Okay.
get through the demo, and then I'm going to stop. I'm not going to take questions until I get to the demo. Then I will answer because it'll be more obvious. So, shadow tables are virtual. They're a representation of the Claris Studio tables. They live in Mongo. If you're not using Claris Studio, you could be using Microsoft SQL, MySQL, Oracle, things like that. They quack and act and look a lot alike in FileMaker Pro, Claris Pro. Okay, makes sense? Deleting, I just mentioned this. If you delete the field, it doesn't really delete it. You're just hiding it. Okay, the sync button kind of restores all those hidden items there. Okay. Supplemental fields are the summary fields and calculation fields. This is right off the certification test. I guarantee it's right off the certification test. We cover this in that certification training, of which case you can earn your patch if you pass the test, right? So I would have been quite happy to retire and never seen again, but it is back. So I have to embrace it and love it, right? So essentially, supplemental fields are not really there. They are not real values that are saved in the FileMaker file. Their existence is tracked and managed from an FMP12 file. So let me just get out of demos, slideshow mode. Let's just do this for real, okay? So I'm going to hide myself kind of way over here in the corner. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to bring that over there just for fun. Actually, let's just do this from scratch. So let's, I'm going to actually make myself small, very small and very cuddly in the corner, because I need more space. I need more space, okay? I'm going to show the doc over here. This is the previous stuff, so this is the demo for today. So we have over here FileMaker Pro. This is 19.4. This is Claris Pro. If I click over here and I say about Claris Pro, it says it's 20.2.200, okay? This is, once again, why I didn't want to have two versions in parallel. I try to explain this because it's an unnecessary friction point, but no one listens to Richard. So here we are, sucking it, trying to understand that there are two versions. If we have a FileMaker file that talks to Claris Studio, we need to be accessing it in Claris Pro 20. Does that make any sense? So let's start a new file. I'm going to say File, and what I'll do is I'll create a new file. And then what we'll do is I'll show you, we'll talk about harvesting data. So I'm going to create a file called assets. Here's the file right here. I'm going to go File, Manage, Database. Okay, so here we have assets. This is the standard starter solution that we've got. Relationships, very, very basic stuff over here, right? So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, give me a new table occurrence group. Now, I have gone into my Claris Studio over here, and I already said log into Claris Studio ID. So I had to log in with a username and password. So my FileMaker, my Claris Pro here is talking to Claris Studio. Once again, it's a local FileMaker system talking to essentially a Mongo database that Claris is managing up in the cloud somewhere. And so let me zoom back out because I've lost my window. This is very important. So this is where it starts to get different. You have this new option right here. These are the options that you will be tested on in the certification test. Add a FileMaker data source. That's another FMP12 file somewhere. ODB data source, that's Oracle, SQL, whatever, right? And then this right here, Claris Studio, right? So this is the big one. This is the new one right here, right? I click on that. Now what it's going to show me is we're in this giant sandbox with all these developers. Some of these developers don't like each other. Some of them don't like me. That's fine. And so you have this giant list of files in here, and that's because all the developers in here raising holy hell. So I have my California, so I can look at their data, but I don't know what's in it. It could be a bunch of F words. Who knows what's in here? So I'm just going to be play it safe. Go to the California rocket buggy registration, right? Because you kind of saw that. I'm going to say, okay. So this is a shadow table. It's a shadow table right here. Okay. There is the shadow table. How come that doesn't look very complete to me? Did I delete some fields out of it? That's interesting. Oh, okay, this is a different one here. California Rocket Bunny registration. This is my main table here. I'm not sure why there are two here. I have no idea why there are two here. That is interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that one alone. That wasn't there last week. It is there now. Or it wasn't there on Friday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another one down here because this is the one I really care about. That's the problem when you got a whole bunch of people playing. Someone might have duplicated my form from another company. They're not supposed to like steal your stuff, right? So here we go. So I'm going to go down to Rocket Bunny 1. So all of us are playing the sandbox, not throwing data, not throwing things at each other. So this is my main one right here. So these are actually two different tables. This is my main one right here. Now, so I'm going to go OK, down to OK, say browse. And so what it does, it creates a layout for you. Here's the layout for you. Here is the data. All of you have put this data in as of right now. This is current, right? So I got Pedro, Mike, all you folks here have been adding records for me. Thank you very much. Thank you for not saying anything grossly uncool. So we have 32 records, okay? And so here's the rub with this. From the FileMaker side, you cannot modify the data at this time. I cannot do anything except search on the data and copy and paste the data out. I can't delete records. I can't add a new record. I can't do almost anything. Nothing here is available. So here's what you got. So you can do finds and you can get the data out. I can import data out of here into FileMaker, and that's what you're going to have to do. So Claris Cloud is the overarching technology under the hood. This is for David Angel. Under the hood, that not that you ever care about this, you'll never have to worry about this, but the technology they're using under the hood is called MongoDB, okay? When that table is represented here in FileMaker, right? File, manage, database, that becomes a shadow table. It's a shadow of the SQL table that's living somewhere else, okay? Now, at the current time, there's no way to create a primary key on this side over here. Like if you go back over here, we say, hey, this is the database in the Claris Studio. This is Rocket Bunny 1, right? If I want to create a new field, so let me my viewing at, I am at actual site, it's a little bit big. I can actually create a new column. These are the columns that you can create. Short text, long text. What's the difference in these? Just it's a difference. Once again, they're trying to dumb this down for brand new people so they're not totally intimidated. But a short text field, a bigger text field, a number field, a drop down. So Claris is mixing data types with control styles with formatting all on one thing in an effort to make it palatable to brand new people. As a longtime FileMaker person, I'm trying to, in my head, translate all this. But there's really not a lot of options you can do. Like I created this number field over here the other day. Then if I look at the options, let me see where the option. I can sort it. I can customize field type. The entire customization of validation and auto enter right now is limited to required. It's required on the other end. So in terms of me auto entering a serial number or anything like that, it's not there yet. And you're like, wow, this is super limited. Yes, I know. But this is only going to get better and there'll be more options in here. And that's what Claris wants to do. So we run into this. How many users can look at the web page at one time? Probably thousands of people can look at this. Do the Rocket Buggy registration, probably thousands, because it's really scalable. It's really scalable. This is not limited with like a FileMaker backend. It's a SQL system on kind of on the front end, and then you can get the data out and do stuff with it. So the problem is over here with this data, we have this data, we can't really do anything with it because it's in here and it's kind of, you can copy it out. That's all you can do. So this gets back to what happens in the world of SQL. A lot of times in the world of SQL, most of you know this, you're sitting there with a SQL, you talk to the head IT guys in the corporation, and they'll create a view for you in SQL, and that view is like read only. The question is, how do you get your job done with that kind of data? Well, if it's read only, but you really need to do stuff with it, you need to copy it all down. So I'm going to use the word harvest in quotes. You have to harvest the data and basically mirror it out of the SQL side into a FileMaker table. And then from there, it's all of you are FileMaker developers or will be a FileMaker developer. You're trying to learn how to be a FileMaker developer, Claris Pro developer, whatever you want to call yourself. Once it's in FileMaker, literally in your FMP12 file, then you kind of control your own destiny. So right now, all this data right here, this is a shadow layout with a shadow table with its shadow fields. So if I come over here to my FileMaker file, which is right here, nowhere in this file is any of this data. It doesn't exist. For me to see this data, I have to have a live connection logged in. So what do you mean by that? I'm going to close this up. I know it's a lot. Some of you are like, holy crap, Richard, my head exploded. I truly apologize. I try to explain to Claire, I said, there's a lot to absorb without trying to show people there's two versions of FileMaker, but here we are. So here's FileMaker Pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on assets. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit Claris Pro. I'm going to go over here to FileMaker Pro. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to say open with FileMaker Pro. So Claris Pro can talk to Claris Studio. FileMaker Pro can't talk to Claris Studio. I'm going to open the file. So the local FMP12 file is here, right? Remember I said that you have to have Claris Pro to get into it. And once you're in Claris Pro, you go through this thing of putting your credentials in up here. If I go, here's Rocket Bunny, here's your layout. What happens if I go here? The file 31 cannot be found. I'm not sure what 31 is. It's a really kind of obscure message. And it says file is missing. So this is what happens when you're in FileMaker Pro and you try to access those resources. So that is a problem, or it's maybe just a data point in your head to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I'm going to quit FileMaker Pro. I'm going to open this back. What I want to do is I want to open another file I've already created. I'm going to go into Claris Pro, and we're going to talk about harvesting data. It took me a little bit to figure out how I wanted to harvest the data, because really you want to mirror it. It's almost like a sync. I had to write a mirror sync, a synchronization between the SQL side, the cloud side, and our side. The problem is normally you'd have a primary key on one side and a primary key on the other side, and that way you could make sure it was all there. But there's no primary keys. And I said, well, what we should do is do a find over, hang on one second. Let me find was it not here? Host, trial, Rocket Bunny registration. Oh, I got to log in. Hang on one second. And then I'll take questions here on this. This is the same kind of file. It's running on FileMaker server. FileMaker server is not going to talk to Claris Studio, but my Pro is because I'm logged into Claris Studio. So if I go File, Manage, Database, Relationships, I see Rocket Bunny table there, and then I create a mirror local. I call it the local table. It's where my harvested data is going to go. So I need to synchronize between these two. Once it's in here locally, then we can edit and do whatever kind of stuff we want to do with it. Make sense? Yeah, primary keys will come, of course, but so my thought process, check this out. My thought process, and we're going to run late today. I don't know what to tell you, folks, just the way it is. The thought process was, well, okay, what I'll do is I'll go over, so you have to think about how you're going to write your sync, right? Can't call Jesse Barnum because right now he won't return your phone call. That's kind of a problem. So how do you find, because it's not just importing the data, but you have to import it kind of all the time and only import down the records that you don't have. You could delete all of yours out and then re-import, but what if you have 1 million records and 5 new records come in? You only want those 5. You don't want 1,000,005 records. So you're like, well, what we should do is I'm going to create, I got a window here. I'm going to go to, this is the Claris Cloud table right here. This is all of you. Here we go. Right? There we go. This is the data. I'm going to create a new window, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say, this is my local data. So this is, I was playing with this earlier. I'm just going to delete all the records so we have kind of an idea what's going on, delete all. So what I said is like, well, let's import them all, and then I'll come over here and mark a flag field that I've already imported, so I could just not import that. That won't work because I can't save changes to to the Claris Studio side. So I wrote this script. I will share this file for those of you. That is a certification test question, David Angel. Would you guys like to know a question on the certification test? David says, just press the sync button. Just press the sync button. Okay. I love that. Thank you, David, for wandering into a trap. Awesome. Tables. We're going to look at Rocket Bunny 1. You're over here. There's a sync button. There's a test certification question. Pressing this button will synchronize the data between your ESS file up somewhere else and your local FileMaker file. True or false? False. It doesn't do that. I'm over here and I say delete. Remember what I said before? Right, it actually tells you the answer right there. This is basically a hide function. Hide it, go away, hide it, go away, hide it, go away. And you're like, well, wait a minute. Maybe I need to see what's here. Maybe you add a new field. You add a new field on the SQL side you don't see over here yet. You press the sync button. It says, hey, we're going to bring this all down. It restores everything from all the fields that are on the SQL side. Plus, these are 2 fields here that I created that are supplemental fields. They are supplemental fields. They are not real. Okay, makes sense? So there you go. Yeah, sync is a really bad term because almost everyone, it doesn't sync. No. Okay, I'll do it again. People are asking me the question. This is a list of fields. Say I don't want to see these. Remember, fundamentally, FileMaker cannot control the schema on a SQL backend. FileMaker cannot control the schema in a SQL backend. It's not allowed to do that. Okay? And so over here, this really is badly named. Badly named. It's been this way since 2010. I don't think they're going to change it. You say delete. It says you're about to delete one selected shadow field. To restore the deleted shadow field, you can synchronize it with the data source. All it does is it checks the fields you have on your side against the fields they have on their side and then makes sure that you can see them all. So I've got rid of it. Checkbox. Let's get rid of both the checkboxes. Let's get rid of all of them except for first and last name. Delete. Are you sure? They are just hidden. They are still available. They're just hidden. If you want to see them, you have to say sync, and it will restore all the ones that you hid. That's all that is. Okay. So it's not a sync in the term of data syncing. It's no data syncing going on. So I'm going to go ahead and say cancel. So I have a table here and this here. So what we had to do to make this in the current incarnation, the hoops I had to jump through to get this to sync is I do an import, and the running theory is that you won't delete any data over here and you won't delete it over here. So as dumb as this is, watch this. So I'm going to run a script. Harvest Claris Cloud data with import technique. All I'm going to do is run an import command. Okay. Out comes the import command. So now we have our own table. So over here, we can change it. We can do whatever we want. We've harvested down a snapshot of all the data, right? So the question is that if I run this script again, I don't want another 35 records. I just want the records that have changed. I want the records that have changed. So can one of you add a record for me? Go to the page and submit a record for me. I mean, I guess I could do it. If I come over here, I can say add a row. I could put Brudderman the cat. Okay, Brudderman the cat. Oh, that's an email address. That won't work. That's the one validation it actually does. Brudderman the cat. So keep in mind that data is over here now. It's in this system. I have 35 records over here in my shadow table, my shadow layout, my shadow records. It's all shadowy. This is my real local data right here. 35, 35. It's a match. Notice over here another thing that it didn't update. It didn't refresh. If I go to contacts, I'm going to jump layout. Hello, go to contacts. Then come back to Bunny 1. It still didn't update. How do you get it to update? You have to run a script step. It's called refresh window. It's a refresh window with the option of blow out your cache and go get fresh external data. If you run this script step right here specifically, we have 35 over here. I'm going to run it. And there's a little delay, and then now we have 37. So it went and got, there was Bob. There you go. So I got 2 new records in here. So Claris Studio will not push to you a notification that a change has been made. Maybe someday they do that, maybe not. I don't have a clue. I really don't have a clue what they're. Claris doesn't come to me and say, Richard, this is what we're going to do. I want you to tell everyone. What I'm showing you here is the stuff I've discovered, right? So, and a lot of this is just ESS. A lot of you have ESS expertise. You've seen this before. So my goal is what I do is I keep track the way this harvest works here. If I run the harvest right now, 35, 35, 37, I need 2 more records. So if I run that script, I get 37, right? There I am. And so what I do is I scroll down here and I know that I have 37. And this is such a fragile sync I wrote, but there's no other way to do it right now. As I come down here, I got 37. Then I come over here and I go, okay, I'm going to go down to 37, omit the first 37, then import whatever's left. So if anyone, and you have to assume that the record, you have all the records and there's no sort state. So you set up, show me all records, no sort, omit them on both sides. And you hope the hell that no one deleted any records anywhere. And then it kind of works, but it's very fragile. It's not good design, but it's the only thing that works right now that I'm aware of. Yeah, it feels like ESS resuscitation. Yeah, I feel like I literally am in 2010. The year is 2010. Right, and so we're back to 2010, and most of the people down at Claris right now, very few of them were there in 2010. I guarantee none of them. Lucy's still there. She's one of the VPs. She was there in 2010. Now the rest of them didn't exist. They were all new people. They haven't been here that long. So here we are. This is the script I wrote. I commented this out. Jacob Taylor, if you could get a copy of this file off of the trial server and give it to Margaret somehow, or we need to get it loaded if we can do that. Underscore ID field doesn't show. That's Mongo's primary key. Yeah, it didn't show anything. That's what you got is what you got. I'm guessing as we get it farther into the future here, that you have more flexibility over here. This part over here is really quite neat. I mean, I'm going to go to forms. Actually, we'll go to here. I'll say create a new form. We'll call this the add a workflow. Okay, so hey, welcome to your first steps on the moon workflow. Okay, and here's your page, right? So you come over here, and so you can see I put a piece of artwork in here with a bunny rabbit with a rocket launcher and the California logo, and you can, if you want to add a field in here, you just add a field, right? So it's like objects. You can say all of them are required or none of them are required for the most part, at least right here. Here you can substitute an image in. If I want to add an object, here we go. Add an object, short field, right? There we go. And there it is. So by me doing that, it defined a field, right? Stuck it in the system, and I could call it Fred. The field's called Fred, I guess. I don't know. I wonder what it's actually called under the hood. So if I go over here, the database, it took the label off. It took the field name off the label, so it attaches the label to it, right? So it's creating the table structure for you automatically. It's kind of cool, but it's very early days, right? And this is the way it is today. So is this going to change anyone's life? Like someone in sales the other way said, hey, people are actively using this. Not very much they're not using it because there's no way of going over here to this form. So say we get done with this form, right? You want to publish the form, right? It's all good to go. You're totally done. You come over here to share, and this is the form. Right here, it's all ready to go. It's already live on the internet. Look at that. How cool is that? That's it. It's live. That's cool. But there's nothing down here about, oh, are you a robot? Would you select the 4 handicapped children that are missing the left arm, right? And then you have to look at the picture and find 4 handicapped or handicapable children that are missing a left arm, right? Or the fire hydrant where a dog is at or something, whatever. It's always something. So yeah, prove you're not a robot, right? So that's not even in here. So if someone actually publishes this form and it goes out, like we put the bunny rabbit thing out there, the robots are going to get it and start just spamming it with stuff. This is cool. So it's kind of back to the future, yet I can see where it will be cool out in the future, right? It's back to the future, but it's right now, it's kind of like, right? So if I come over here, no one submitted any data, I guess. Really good. Kind of operation is this? I'll put, let's put a unique hidden mail in there. Nah, forget that. Let's just put Rick in there. Stuff in there, some stuff in there. Submit. It's done. Come back over here. It's not here, so I have to tell it to what? Refresh, and then it comes back and gets me the data. Probably should be a refresh button or something. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. So there's the data. So, I mean, it's pretty slick. Container fields. There are, I think someday you'll have container fields. I will show you the list right here. That is your list. Container is not on there, which is like a blob. I think they call those blobs. So, number, drop down. Once again, they're mixing control styles and formatting and field types together into a list. So what are they going to put? Like I put primary key in here. If they put the word primary key in here, people are going to like, the brand new bento people are going to lose their minds, right? Like, what's a primary key? So, question from Twitch. Why pay for Claris Studio? Very limited when I can easily get JotForm, which is very complete. Yeah, you should absolutely buy JotForm right now. But Claris Studio, once again, is Claris Studio is going to have in it Claris Connect, which in itself has its own issues. But what Claris is doing, listen, none of this is ready for prime time right now. It's not even officially shipping right now. I think it will probably, they'll try to ship a 1.0 in the fall. But do I have any immediate needs or uses for this at RCC with my 30 engineers? No. But this is neat. I think if you're a serious developer in the FileMaker community, you should play with it. If you want to use JotForm now or FM Better Forms or whatever. But today is going to, but Claris's intention is to make this so good. Once again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But Claris's intention is to make this so good that it competes with FileMaker because it's that good, like the full pro application. I think that's like when one of your customers says, we're going to replace FileMaker with Oracle. Okay. It's almost like the exact same conversation. Claris has been saying this for 3 years. We're going to have a future. We're going to have an NX. Now we are down to the set of people at Claris who actually know what they're doing, and they're realizing that just to build Pro into a web interface is really a tall order. It's very difficult to do. So they're going to do things in Claris Studio that I think round out, that make FileMaker Pro better, make it more awesome. Public facing forms with there's no licensing for this. If you have this right now, there's no licensing. Now, yeah, you can go to FM Better Forms or JotForm or whatever, but at some point, Claris Studio will become a superior tool. They're all hanging their existences on that statement down there. It will become a better tool. Mm-hmm. I don't know when. It'll be a better tool than JotForm or something like that, but eventually it will be probably superior. Might be a year. I don't know. However long. Depending upon price, I would immediately use Studio Forms if available. I love it. It's pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, it's neat. They're going to have like robot suppression on it. Like, I'm not a robot. The other thing is that, like, say you come over here to workflow, and on this page here, then on this page, say you put a page in the middle, and so you fill in some data here, then on this page here, you redisplay some of the data you've already had, and you make a logical condition statement on here, like say over here you said, well, my Fluffy Bunny has body armor. And then you come over here and you say, well, if Fluffy Bunny equals, quote, body armor, then show this other question that you might have. It has to have logical decision, forking kind of, if this, then do this kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's got they got plenty of things they can go out and do, right? And I think they're going to do that. But, because I was in here going, there's nowhere in here to like bring that data forward or make a decision based upon that current data. But I mean, it works. I think biggest part of what they've been trying to do is create the underlying architecture, the infrastructure at Claris, because the reason they didn't give this to everyone is that same reason they dumped all of us in the same sandbox. Literally, I am in the same sandbox with everyone else, all these other people. Robert Halsey, he's Bob Shockey, David Knight. David Knight's crazy, right? Alex Gregory, Beeswax. I don't know if I've met him. Vince, Todd, another Todd, Hansa from 24U. We all know him. Kevin Hammond. the CEO at DB Services, Nick Orr, right? All these people, Tim Simbura, at used to be, I don't even know what they're now. They're Lumen Fire, which is like something with my flashlight or something. So, yeah, I don't know. I always thought that was kind of funny. And then Go Mainspring, I like that. So we're all in a sandbox together because Claris is working on getting, as you buy it, getting your own little world together because they're going to be hosting this for you. Um, Talking to Peter Nelson, once again, repeating what he's already said, they can make this on premise if they want. I don't know that you really want to. I think some of you will need it because of GDPR in Europe and who controls the data, where it's at. Claris is going to have some adoption limiting kind of factors, especially in Europe. United States, maybe not quite so bad, but there are some people who absolutely have to have on-premise stuff, right, Jacob Taylor?
Yeah, we've had 2 clients in the last year essentially refuse setup services from RCC due to I'm facing the wrong screen, so I'm not going to look right on the stream.
Okay.
But basically, I'm looking at you can look at my printer here.
Okay.
Essentially, anyway, the client refused server setup services because we're going to put them on Amazon because that's our primary vendor. And they talked to their legal people, and the legal people basically told them no. No to Amazon because they're an American company, and the complexity, I don't know if it's their particular industry or what, but the complexity that GDPR and e-privacy bring to working with American technical services providers, basically it was a no. And so I gave them a different consultation, which was, hey, what kind of hardware do you want, that kind of thing. So
okay, so if you guys are having
worked out
questions about the quality of code underneath this, like Jack the Ripper's asking about that, yeah, save that for tomorrow. Ask Andy Lacates. We'll throw it at him. Claris needs to add a lot of functionality besides form, FileMaker fields, payment transactions, e-sign uploads, capture. Yeah, exactly. There's quite a bit they need to. Peter White, I'm sorry, I thought David White. Peter White. Yeah, there's a lot they need to add to this. I think we're all in agreement on that. But it's their, I mean, basically they've been beating their head on the wall for 3 years, and now finally there seems to be some forward motion. Is it useful for me right now? No, but is it forward motion, and it logically it seems to work, right? Once again, I don't know the performance of trying to have FileMaker talk. Like if you have 1 million records in this thing, what is it going to be like to try to you have to have a way of syncing just down your data so you have your 1 million records locally in your FMP12 file. I don't think there's any reasonable way to try to front end and manage. That's what people always said. I want to use ESS. I want to use FileMaker as a front end for Oracle. If you ask Claris when they did presentations back in 2010, they absolutely said FileMaker should not be considered a front end for the SQL Oracle system. It's got its own uses, and it's not this high-speed front end because it has a hard time keeping up with pushing and pulling that much data. Peter's expressed some concern about latency and speed between their server, wherever this server's at. It's probably on the west coast of the United States somewhere. Amazon West Coast data center, either Oregon or down here in San Jose somewhere. How that would be, right? So, cool. All right. So when I want to sell a standalone database, can my customers use the free future FileMaker? Do they need to buy a License Pro? Ruben. So the answer to your question is Claris has said nothing about freemium except that little tag that you saw. Came up yesterday. Someone was trying to figure this out. To use what I'm gathering is that they're going to give FileMaker Pro. Jacob's looking at the other way. They're going to give FileMaker Claris Pro away free, but for it to work, you have to they want your name and information so they can market to you. I think that's fair if you're going to get an app like that for free. That being said, I think you have to log in and use the Claris ID and the Claris, your Studio ID, whatever ID. So when you get Pro for free, you also get a single use of Cloud 2 and Connect and with all this other stuff. And so how well that fits with you selling your own single standalone file, I don't know. Tomorrow, Andy Lacates will be here to clean up the mess I created. I'm so excited by that. So for those of you who want to know more about that, check it out tomorrow. So tomorrow will be Andy Lacates talking about whatever stuff in here and also the Problem Solver Circle and I'm not sure what he wants to do on that, but I've already kind of presented on all this material. I can't do any more, so it's up to him to. You folks really need to bring questions tomorrow, kind of on topic questions, but questions. If they're hard questions, that's fine. He's a big boy, and he gets properly compensated by Claris. He can take the hard questions. There was a question, first time chat. What name version of FileMaker is going to be live in 3 years? Okay, so in 3 years, Pro will still be a product. It's not going anywhere. I guarantee. It gets back to that initial slide we talked about, where they're not going to break. They're going to honor what you're doing. They're not going to break where you're at. Let me see if I can just get this slide real quick. It was called their North Stars. Kind of an important one. I'm just going to pop this back up here real quick. So it was the North Star one right here. So this is, if I hit play, this was Claris's main guiding principles, philosophies. Don't break existing deployments, okay? They're going to call it Pro. They're probably trying to get rid of the word FileMaker. My guess is that it'll be Claris Pro, probably. My guess is they'll take both versions of Pro that they're about to give birth to. We have one right now in market, that there's going to be two in market, right? Then I guess that they'll come back together at some point. And so it'll be Pro. So build it for Pro. You'll be in good shape, okay? What's the name or version? What version will FileMaker be in 3 years? Okay, I can assure you that Claris doesn't even know that. They know it'll be called Pro. Version number 21, 22, 23, I have no clue, right? And they sure the hell didn't tell me, right? But knowing what Peter Nelson has said this down there, that these are their guiding principles, okay? So taking these guiding principles in check, he has a pretty good idea what he's doing over the next, say, 90 days, 3 months. Because they're using this agile development. So he has a really good idea because they have the deliverables documented for the next 3 months. The next 3 months after that, what's between 3 and 6 months, he has kind of an idea mostly of what they're doing. And beyond 6 months, he really doesn't have any idea what he's doing. And so that's the velocity of business. Things are happening that fast down there. Does that make sense? That's a really good question. Should I have confidence in Claris in 3 years? I've been doing this 32 years. I have confidence. But notwithstanding confusing naming, the product fundamentally, there will be a product called Pro, and it will continue to operate your software and not break things, because that's the goal. So I have confidence in that. I have absolute total confidence in that. Okay, but Claris doesn't know what the version number will be, and it'll be called Pro. And then Claris Studio will probably be a whole hell of a lot better by then too. 3 years. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. That's it for today. I appreciate all the action everyone has. Bring your questions tomorrow. If you want to ask Claris about whether you should trust them or not, or whether they're worthy of your love, bring that tomorrow. All right, guys. You're awesome. Thanks for not making my life miserable today. Appreciate you being patient with me as I waited my way through Mayhem. Brand new product. All right, cool. See ya. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.